The American author and theologian Frederick Buechner writes this: "You can kiss your family and friends goodbye and put miles between you, but at the same time you carry them in your heart, your mind, your stomach, because you do not live just in a world, but a world lives in you." One of the great themes of Luke's gospel, that's where today's gospel is from, is of Jesus going to the peripheries, Jesus going out to all levels of society. And you find him eating and drinking and talking with all kinds of men and women. You find him with people who are really good and nice, extraordinary in their faith. You find him with people who are just sort of ordinary and not very noticeable. You find him with people who have made really bad choices, people who are not very religious, people that others find unlikable, people who are despised. And yet you find Jesus going out to everyone, every human person. And in doing so, we find Jesus welcoming folks. And he doesn't care, as it says in today's gospel, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He doesn't care what the time of day is, what the circumstance is. Jesus opens his heart in welcome to everyone. And in doing so, Jesus is creating a new human family, a family that's not based on DNA, not based on whether you can find the people in your Ancestry.com lineage. No, it's a family that's composed of people whose hearts are open to God and are willing to try as best they can to answer God's call. We're all from a family, a biological family, a family of origin. In my mother's house, there is a hallway on which there are many, many framed black and white pictures of my family, several generations of my family. Some of them I knew, others I have never met. Some of them were quite ordinary in their life. Others were extraordinary. Some were very religious, some not so much. And then we have a few relatives who were not really that nice. One great-grandfather found himself in a huge scandal that made the front pages of the paper in 1907 or 1908. I can't remember the date, but that's a video for another time. Today I bring with me a picture that is a copy of one that's in my mom's house. It's from another side of the family, not the criminal side. And it's of my maternal great-grandmother as a little girl. She's right there. And she is about 6 years old there. Her name was Anna. On the other side is her sister Mary, who is at that point about 4. In the front is their brother John, who's 2. And sitting on the father's lap is Elizabeth, who we would call Lee. And she was just born that year. My grandparents great-grandparents rather, are behind them, John and Anna. They were born in what would much later, after this photograph, would become Czechoslovakia. But they came to this country and they valued their family, they valued friendships, and they also valued the many opportunities that were afforded to them in coming to this country. Now, this picture is taken in 1915. It may be around this time of year that the picture was taken, maybe more like September. The First World War had already started, but our country would not enter the war until 1917, 2 years later. And the great pandemic of 1918 was still 3 years away. My grandmother's sister Mary, who's in the picture there, she would get the flu, and she would have to be hospitalized in a field hospital. And thankfully, she did recover, and she lived to be almost 91. But I think about all the historic events that have not happened yet as they took this picture. The Great Depression, the Second World War, as well as all the advances in medicine and technology that did not exist in 1915. And there would, of course, be struggles and challenges and sorrows that they would personally face on the road ahead. But here they are. And like many families in all the generations since a camera was invented, they decided, let's take a picture. In those days, you went to a studio to have your picture taken. Maybe they sent a copy to their relatives in Europe. Maybe they were passing them out to family who lived in this country. I know my grandmother had this picture, as well as my mother, in their homes for as long as I am alive. But they seem to be looking ahead, don't they? Yeah, they're looking at the photographer, I'm sure. But I'm wondering if they're looking out into the future. And I think what carried them as a family over all the years? Well, it was faith. It was faith that saw them through all the struggles and the challenges. It was faith that helped them appreciate and find joy in all the milestones of life. Faith, their Catholic faith. This week's celebration of All Saints is really a family celebration, a family of believers, men and women like ourselves, all of us, who are connected not by DNA, not by our ancestry, but by our faith in Christ. And on this day, rather this weekend, we're going to look back at all of those folks who have allowed faith in Christ to guide them, to shape them, and to help them answer the call to serve, to become the person that God needs them to be. Now, none of the saints were perfect, really no. If you think they are, you haven't read enough about the lives of the saints. They had their doubts, they had their idiosyncrasies. Some had tempers, and some had more than a few failures. But it was faith that carried them. It was faith that carried them. This weekend, we'll also think about our beloved dead. On Monday, we'll celebrate All Souls Day. And we think about those who have gone before us. Some of them were people of great faith, others not so much. Some were angels on earth, some were very annoying at moments and hard to live with. But they were our family. Imperfect, wild, crazy, quiet, ordinary, beautiful, loud, complicated. But if you really think about it, each of them, no matter what kind of life they had, now in death, they have the ability to help us, to challenge us, to show us how we can be stronger disciples, better members of the family of Jesus. In today's first reading, St. Paul writes to the Philippians. He says, "It is right that I should think of you this way because I hold you in my heart." It is right that I should think of you this way because I hold you in my heart. Who are you holding in your heart today, right now? And maybe in light of this weekend celebration, is there a saint who has special meaning for you, who you've called upon in good times and in tough times? Who do you hold in your heart? Is there a relative who maybe died a long time ago? Maybe someone, a friend or a family member who died recently. What comes to mind when you think of her? What comes to mind when you think of him? As Frederick Buechner writes, we carry them with us. In so many ways, we carry them with us. And in faith, as part of the family of Jesus, we know that they are not simply a picture, but one day we will see them again, and we will be with them in heaven. But today we think about the lives that they lived. And so I think of Anne and Mary and John and Lee. I think of their parents, Anna and John. The lives they lived. How will you this weekend remember the lives lived by beloved saints and by beloved family and friends who have died? And if they were sitting with you right now, watching this video, what would you want to say to them? And even more, what would they say to you?